today's class is going to be a little slower. We're going to start off nice and slow. We'll do a few little restorative like poses and just try to keep this really grounding and nervous system nourishing. This would be a great class to do before any kind of big events or family gatherings or any preparation for doing something that maybe you get a little worked up at. So we're gonna start laying heads face down in a crocodile pose. If you have blocks, go ahead and bring those with you. And also if you have some kind of blanket or maybe a thin pillow or some kind of cushiony layer, that we'll use that a little bit later. So we're gonna find that crocodile pose here. If it's uncomfortable to lay down on your stomach, you can always just come to your back instead. You could also use your cushiony layer underneath your stomach or maybe underneath the clavicles, the upper chest here, or anywhere else that makes your experience a little more cozy. So crocodile pose, we can stack our hands or our fists or a block just to support the forehead, and then rest your head there on that support. And let your heels splay out to the sides, maybe even widen your feet toward the edges of your mat. Just try to fine tune your body's position so you feel like you can really let go here and soften in, kind of making friends with the floor here. Could also be nice if you had a big squishy blanket beneath you or over top of you. So just go ahead and settle in and keep settling and adjusting until it feels about right. You might close your eyes or maybe just kind of keep them open, looking down at the floor or whatever's underneath you now. Just notice your breath. I find that being in this prone position, you really notice the breath more, I think, because it takes quite a bit more effort, a little more resistance with those inhales. And it feels like gravity kind of pulls down on those exhales just a bit more than when we start on our backs. Just be with your breath. See if taking some deeper, slower breaths feels right to you. And as you continue to breathe and notice, we'll start to notice and reflect on the day you've had so far up till now. So just a quick review of your day, noticing any feelings in your body, any repercussions or responses from the kind of day you've had, if you've been standing or sitting a lot, or if you've had a hard workout or something, maybe you can feel those signs in your body. And then also notice the actual feelings, the emotions. Any big ones that came up today at all? Just a quick review there. Noticing if any are lingering into this moment. Just acknowledging what's present if you're able to identify those emotions. And then checking in with your energy? How is your energy in this moment? Where do you feel energy in your body or in your space? We'll take a couple rounds of equal breathing, samadhi. Just counting the length of your inhale, just a natural inhale. And then count and match that same length to your exhale. So just finding a sense of balancing here. Inhaling for a certain count, maybe 4, wherever you're at. And matching to your exhale. Another count of 4, or wherever you're counting to. And as we begin to downshift or downregulate or ground, lots of different terms for this kind of settling, sense of settling. Let's start to extend the exhale. So if you're counting in for 4, let's say, then see if you can exhale and count to 5. So we're just extending it a little longer. You might extend it to 6 on the next exhale. Just seeing if you can make it one more second, extending your exhale for a few rounds. And staying where it's comfortable there. Maybe doubling your exhale at some point. And if you'd like to set a dedication or intention for this practice today, feel free to bring something or someone to mind now. All right, when you are ready to begin a little movement, we'll just kind of wiggle fingers and toes, maybe lifting your head up off of your hands and just kind of wiggling the hands, the fingers, the ankles, just getting some little movements in. Plant the hands next to the chest and in very slow motion, see about pressing your way up to tabletop hands and knees, and then straight back to extended child's pose. So bringing your knees out wide and your big toes touching behind you, sinking your seat toward your heels, and then lowering the upper body toward the floor. Starting out with a lot of kind of downward facing poses. This is kind of an internal facing type of movement or way of being. So it really feels like you can hear your breath a little bit more, or just really be with yourself a little bit more, I say. So taking a couple belly breaths here, drawing the air down to the lowest parts of your lungs, letting your belly expand. Make sure your knees are wide enough that your belly really has enough space to expand with those inhales. And everything softening with your exhales. You're welcome to stay right here or add in a little bit of a side bend by walking the hands over toward the left edge of your mat and then sinking back down, feeling some length and some bend. And then breathing and filling the right side of the body. Maybe about one more breath on this side. When the time is right for you, go ahead and switch sides, walking your hands over toward the right edge of the mat and then sinking back down, feeling that kind of side bend to the right, opening up, lengthening through that left side. Go ahead now and breathe in, filling that left side of the body with air, breath, energy. Just about one more breath on this side. And walking your hands back to the center, rise on up to tabletop. Make sure you're gonna have a blanket or cushion or something if you have a prop close to you. Unless you're on a carpeted floor, that might be enough, but better to be safe there. Then go ahead and lower yourself back down to your stomach. We're going to bend the right knee and place your your right shin about parallel to the edge of your mat. So you're just bending that right knee, placing it off to the side at whatever angle feels good for your joints here. And then let your left side of your head rest down on your stacked hands or on a block or on a pillow. Just so your gaze is the same direction as that bent knee, the right knee. We're placing the inner arch of the right foot on the floor or on your cushion. This is a restorative half frog pose. Just kind of a gentle hip opener here. And with restorative poses, it's more about being, less about doing or stretching, just more about releasing into the moment. Letting your body do its inner work. We're trying to get in a state, a brainwave state, reflected in our parasympathetic nervous system, that rest, digest, and heal side of things. So if it doesn't feel like a lot's going on, that's good. There is a lot going on inside. Resting, digesting, and healing bit by bit. You can spend this time with the breath again, maybe working toward that extended exhale, possibly getting to the point where your exhale is twice as long as your inhale, if that feels okay to you. We're going to have about 10 breaths here. I think we're maybe about halfway through now, so probably about 5 more nice, slow breaths. No rush. And sometimes 10 breaths can seem like a lot, but let's just try not to rush. Let's just see if we can find something to enjoy with each part of these breaths. And maybe about one more breath on this side. when you're ready, we're gonna lift the head up. Plant your right hand by your right side of your chest here. Just press your way up so you can thread that left arm underneath. So we're kind of threading the needle. The left arm is reaching down and through. If that doesn't feel very possible for your body, you can turn onto your side by bending both of your knees and stacking your knees one on top of the other, kind of like the fetal position. If it feels interesting to keep just the right knee bent and the left leg straight, that's another option here. I like to bring a block underneath my head at this point, just on the side of the left head there, or sorry, the left side of the head rather. Plant that back of the left hand just right down on the floor. The right hand stacks on top of the left hand. And then reach your right fingertips a little farther away than your left fingertips. You're really feeling an opening between the shoulder blades, a spreading of the shoulder blades. And then press the back of your left arm down to the floor as you lift your right hand straight up. Maybe up and overhead. Especially if you just have one knee bent, you might notice that you don't have a lot of motion here. Like you're not gonna get the right hand to the back or the back of the right hand to the floor. I'm just gonna open up as much as it feels good for you. So left arm pressing down, right arm opening up with this upward twist. Once you're somewhere comfortable, just notice how your breath interacts with the twist. You take a full breath in. You might notice that your body kind of pulls you out of the twist slightly. And as you exhale, maybe you're allowed to twist just gently in that direction a bit more. So just noticing the subtle here with your breaths. If you like movement a little bit more, you could use your inhales and exhales to move open and close. You figure out which one feels best. Maybe you're inhaling when your hands come together. Maybe you're exhaling into that upward twist. Or just hang out there in your twist. So it's up to you. Just about one more breath. And then close those hands back up. So both hands stack there on the right side. If your head was on a block, move that to the side now. We're just going to turn onto your back. So just do what you have to do here to turn right over to your back. We're going to bend the knees so our feet are standing up on the mat. We'll do a couple gentle rounds of breathing bridge pose here. And we're just gonna do it about halfway, half effort, if you will. We're just tucking the shoulder blades in a little bit behind your body. So now shoulder blades are really close together. Pick up all of your toes, spread them out. Just hold there with the toes stretching. Maybe your fingers are stretching too, creating space in between the fingers and toes. And then release that, toes coming back to the floor. With an inhale, start to tuck your tailbone under, flattening the low back toward the floor, and then picking up your pelvis just about halfway today, half effort. And then exhaling back down. As we do this a few more times, see if you can imagine just picking up like one vertebrae at a time. So starting with that tuck of the tailbone's lifting, the sacrum's lifting, those low vertebrae start lifting, maybe about, to mid-back with those inhales. And then as you exhale, see if you can kind of reverse that. So the mid-back is going down first, then the lower back, the sacrum, the tailbone. And don't try to be a perfectionist about it. Just generally inhaling, tucking the tailbone, lifting up. And exhaling, reversing that motion. Remember, just half effort. Don't try too hard. Do that a couple more times. If you do want a little bit of a strengthening element here, you might stay lifted for a couple of breaths. Or just continue this nice, slow lifting and lowering, mobilizing the back and the pelvis, working through that area. And when you're done with that next round, go ahead and hug your knees in toward your chest and take a little bit of motion here, massaging out the low back and the sacrum and maybe even into the glutes and the hips a little bit, just by circling the knees or rocking gently side to side. And then go ahead and hold on behind your thighs if you can reach, or behind your knees if you can reach. Just start to straighten or almost straighten the right leg. Not too much effort. And then bend into that right knee. Right back down. We're going to switch sides. The left knee starts straightening, left leg rising up. And then bend that left knee again. We're just going to do that a couple times. We're straightening the right leg. And then bending it back down. Let's add our breath to it now. Let's inhale as we lift that left foot, straightening the left leg. And exhale as you bend. Inhale, right leg straightens. Exhale, bend. Last time, inhale, left leg lift. Exhale, bend back in. All right, we're going to turn over onto the left side now. Grab your cushioning. I'm using a blanket here. Whatever you used with that restorative half frog, bring that over to the left side this time. So we're going to roll right over toward the right side, rather, and then switch sides. So the left knee bends out toward the left side. We're kind of finding that crocodile-ish pose with the face or the chest facing down. This time the right side of the head finds your props or your hands, whatever feels comfortable underneath the right side of your head. Then rest your head down. Find the right angle of the left knee. So not exactly a right angle per se, like not 90 degrees unless that feels right. Maybe it's a little less. Maybe it's a little more. Just try to find a sweet spot there with the inner left arch touching the floor. That inner side of the left foot. Resting down. And we're having about 10 breaths on this side and just allowing our body to get back into that rest, digest, and heal state. So if you notice any tightening or over efforting, just bring your awareness there and see if there's something you can do to ease your experience. Maybe it's extending your exhale again. It's kind of a tried and true way of slowing things down. And I'm sure you know the importance of rest and deep rest, but sometimes it's hard to know what that is. Sometimes, at least speaking for myself here, sometimes I'm like sitting on the couch and watching Netflix or scrolling and just sitting for a while. Sometimes I think that's rest, but sometimes it leaves me a little more drained than anything. So maybe considering a pose or some kind of breathing activity instead, or maybe even at the same time if that's what you're feeling. Just getting those little moments of rest, of replenishment, wherever you can get them. Just about 2 more slow breaths. Taking your time, we'll plant that left hand, lifting the head, we'll plant that left hand just kind of next to the chest, lifting your upper body up enough to slide, thread that right hand through, so down and through, setting your right side of the shoulder down on the floor, and then maybe grabbing a block if you like for underneath your head. I just find a block to be just about the right height for me. If this doesn't feel possible again, or it just feels too tight, go ahead and bend both of your knees and then stack your knees one on top of the other. They're kind of like the fetal position toward the left. Otherwise, we're keeping that left knee bent out to the side and that right leg more or less straight. Press down through the back of the right arm. Stack your left hand on top of your right, and then reach the left fingertips farther than the right fingertips, feeling that opening between the shoulder blades and right at the center of your back. You can kind of exaggerate it a little bit as you feel that stretch. And then coming back to a little bit more of a neutral position with your hands stacking, your head resting down on the block or pillow. Press the back of the right arm down and start to lift your left arm up. Especially right away, we're not going as far as we can. We're just kind of hanging out somewhere around 70% or so. And you can hang out here, maybe slowly deepening if that feels safe for your body. And noticing that very subtle amount of movement here as you take a deep breath in. See how your body kind of compensates for that breath in. It kind of pulls you out of the twist a bit. And a lot of times with that exhale, you're allowed to twist a little more. So you might just stay there, noticing this subtle pull of the breath. If you like a little bit more movement than that, or your arm starts getting a little numb or something, you could close the arms all the way back up with an inhale. And then exhale as you open and twist. You can experiment with a little of both, stillness, movement. Just see if you can keep tuning in to what your body's asking for. So we're inhaling. If you're closing it up, inhale as you do that. And then exhaling as you open up to your twist. Have just about 2 more breaths wherever you want to be. And go ahead and close it back up, stacking your right hand on top of your left hand on top of your right for a second. And then turn back down toward the floor. So we're unwinding, clearing those blocks and those props off of your mat. And then press your way up to tabletop, hands and knees. We'll go through cat and cow here. So fingertips spreading out a moderate amount, hands below the shoulders, knees below the hips. If you're trying to be extra cozy today, maybe grabbing your cushion for underneath your knees, just softening the joints a bit more. I feel like it's a little treat. With your inhale, start to lift the tailbone, lift the gaze, start finding that cow pose position, belly is lowering. And then exhale as you tuck your tailbone under, feel that kind of wave up the spine, and then tuck your chin, cat pose. Inhaling to find cow. Exhaling, moving into cat pose. Okay. Coming back to a kind of neutral position. Let's straighten that right leg out toward the right side and plant your right foot down on the ground. So your right foot's more or less in line with your left foot, just off of your mat. We'll just kind of rock forward and back a little bit as you feel into the inner line of the leg, the right leg. So just kind of reaching the tailbone back a bit and then rocking forward, opening up the inside of the right leg. Okay. Just a little gentle moment here of hip strengthening. So coming back to kind of neutral with your right leg still out. See, see what it feels like to lift that right foot up slightly, and then back behind you, and then bend your knee back to the floor. So you're really activating through the outer side of that right leg. If you want to try it again, just move that right leg out, and then see about lifting that right leg up slightly. Shifting your straight right leg back behind you, and then plant that right knee back down, tabletop position. We'll do that again on the left side, so you get another chance there. So go ahead and straighten your left leg, planting your left foot out to the left side, just so the inner arch of that left foot is more or less in line with your left or your right knee. And finding a little bit of rocking here, back and forth, feeling into the inner left leg. Okay. And we'll experiment with 2 rounds of that kind of hip strengthener here. So we're just lifting the left foot up just a little bit. A little bit does it. And then bring that left leg straight back behind you. And then bend your left knee and set it down. Do that one more time, straightening that left leg out toward the left side, giving it a moment to settle in, and then seeing what it feels like to lift that left foot up a bit, sweep it behind you, and then set it back down. Surprisingly warming, I'm finding. Okay, you can sit back onto your knees if that feels comfortable. You could sit back onto a block or a pillow between your feet and your seat, or a little bit gentler, you can just stand on the knees for a moment. So you're choosing that variation here for hero's pose. Just bring the palms face up in your lap, maybe closing your eyes. With an inhale, sweeping your shoulders up toward your ears. And then exhale as you lower the shoulders back and down, kind of like a half circle there. So we're inhaling, shoulders coming up toward the ears. Exhaling back and down like you're tucking the shoulder blades in your back pocket. Exaggerated, of course. A couple more times like that. We're inhaling, lifting shoulders up. Exhaling, tucking them back and down. One more time at your own pace. And then rest there with the shoulder blades down. Chest can feel a little open here. Slight, ever so slight tuck of the chin, just so the back of your neck feels just a little longer. With an inhale, start to reach your hands down by your sides and then up and around so that your hands eventually meet up at the top. With an exhale, bring hands together down in front of your heart center. We're going to find that kind of movement here. With your inhale, you're lowering your hands down by your sides and then up and around, joining palms overhead. Exhale, hands come down through heart center. One more time, inhale, hands down and then up and around, joining your hands overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. We'll stay there for a clearing breath in through the nose and sigh through your mouth. And blink your eyes open here. Let's find our way to a downward dog. So I like to use blocks here. Highly recommend that, especially for a nice gentle practice like we're doing today. So blocks up at the top of the mat, curling your toes under. Start to pick up your knees and reach your tailbone back and up. Find your breath first here. And if you like, maybe pedaling out your legs by bending and straightening opposite knees. Lots of focus on the breath, flowing. So much easier to hold the breath when we're upside down, so don't do that. Keep breathing. All right. One more breath in, coming up to your tippy toes. Exhale, sink your heels. With an inhale, round your way forward to a high plank, shoulders over wrists. And with an exhale, lower your knees, move those blocks to the side, and then lower your chest. Untuck your toes, press the tops of your feet down into the floor a lot. With an inhale, start to lift your upper body, your head, your chest, finding a baby cobra. And then exhale right back down. 2 more times. We're inhaling, finding baby cobra. Exhaling to lower right back down. 1 more time. Inhale to lift. And exhale to lower. Take a breath of rest at the bottom. In through the nose. Out through your mouth. Inhale, rise up to tabletop. Hands and knees. And exhale to your favorite version of child's pose. Knees could go wide. Maybe you come up to the fingertips, reaching through your shoulders. Maybe you wrap your arms around so your hands end up near your heels. Find whatever version is calling you. And then send your breath down to the low back, down to the sacrum for 2 more breaths. When you're ready, start to rise back up to your tabletop. Grab your blocks and find your way to downward dog. Lifting on up, reaching that tailbone up. We'll take 3 breaths here, and with your inhale, start to rise up to your tippy toes. And exhale, sink your heels. Inhale, rise up to your tippy toes. And exhale, sink your heels. 1 more just like that. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling to lower the heels. Inhale, roll forward to your high plank. Exhale, knees come to the floor. Move your blocks to the side. And then lower your chest on down. If you want to keep in the spirit of a nice, gentle practice, you could take a couple rounds of that baby cobra. If you want just kind of a sneaky strengthener here, we'll try bringing a block up to the top of the mat. So you're reaching forward, grabbing onto the block up at the top of your mat. With an inhale, let's start to lift the feet, lift the hands. With an exhale, grab onto the block with the right hand and see if you can bring both hands down to your low back. So you're kind of handing off the block at the low back. So left hand grabs onto your block. And then both arms start to rise back up toward the top, where you hold on with both hands, and then exhale at some point, lowering everything down. Take 2 breaths of rest, then we'll switch directions. When you're ready, inhaling to lift the hands and the feet. Exhale, bring both hands. We're grabbing on with the left hand this time. Both hands reach back down toward the low back. Inhale as you grab on with the right hand and reach your hands back up toward the top. And then exhale, lower everything back down. Breath of rest in and out. Clearing breath this time, in through your nose and sigh through your mouth. We'll put that block to the side for now. We might experiment with that more in future classes, so stay tuned. Start to press your way on up to tabletop. We'll move any props off of your mat for now. Come on down to a seat, and then bring your feet to sweep around to the top of your mat. And just lower down onto your back. If you want to do just another little core strengthener, you could slowly roll down one vertebrae at a time, finding that little wobble. If you'd rather not, just go ahead and lower on down. And at the bottom, grabbing hold of the knees or shins, and once again, rolling some weight over the low back, just a little sacrum massage. Rolling the knees in circles or side to side. Then we'll set the feet down on the floor. Let's take a long body stretch. So straighten your legs and arms, reaching long in opposite directions. Maybe wiggling your fingers and toes, making sure they're still there. All right, hands will come down by our sides. Let's bend the knees again, standing your feet up on the floor. And we'll take a gentle twist side to side here. So just let your knees kind of in a windshield wiper motion, sliding, twisting the knees toward the right. Arms could go wide. And then up and over to the left. So just kind of windshield wipering the knees side to side. And you might get a little fancy, and when your knees are twisting to the right, you could turn your gaze toward the left. You're just gonna opposite of where the knees are. And you're just going at your own pace here. When the knees lower and twist to the left, your gaze twisting to the right. A couple more times through. And when you've had enough, coming on back to the center. If there are any last movements, poses, or stretches that your body is asking you for, now is a great time to move into those positions or stretches. Whenever you're feeling ready for our final resting pose, go ahead and get extra cozy. Maybe using your pillow or your blanket as a pillow. Maybe it's a pillow you have. You could put that under your knees or maybe on top of you. Kind of nice to hug a pillow. It's very soothing, I find. So just go ahead and get as comfortable as you can. Maybe in some kind of deluxe shavasana position, corpse pose. Your arms and legs could be outstretched, taking up just as much space as you'd like. You might find the lower back friendly constructive rest pose by standing your feet up at the edges of your mat, tucking your tailbone under so your low back is flat to the floor, or sort of flat, not all the way flat, but a little bit more flat than normal. And then knees coming in toward the center, just so you don't have to hold your legs up at all. You can always experiment with hand and foot, leg and arm positioning until it feels right. ahead and close your eyes if that feels right, or if your mind is quite busy, you could choose to keep your eyes open and maybe find a drishti, a focal point, or some object to gaze directly at. You could take kind of a half closed gaze where your eyelids are kind of like half closed. You can kind of see out of the eyes, but not super clearly. Sometimes that's nice. You're just resting here. If you like a little visualization to go along with your rest, just something to kind of hold you in the moment. You might think of your inhale as a wave kind of coming up over the feet, up through the body, all the way to the top of the head with your inhales. And that wave coming right back down and out with your exhales from the top of the head all the way down toward your toes. Just like you're right there on the shore, right where the waves sweep in with the inhales. Smoothing everything out with those exhales, all those little sand particles getting smooth out. Letting your breath be the sound of the ocean now. Nice and slow, inhaling, visualizing that nice, warm, soothing wave rising up. And exhaling as it just washes things clean, smooth things out. Almost like you're just watching it happening. You're just watching it happen. You're not forcing it. The inhales come in. The inhales turn to exhales and release. Just a little clearer with each breath. And now that the slate is a little clearer, imagine calling back your energy. Calling back any little bits of energy that have scattered throughout the day or throughout more time. Just calling those pieces back to maybe your heart center, maybe somewhere else in your body, wherever it feels like that energy wants to come home to. Some people like to visualize it like little stars coming back in, or little beams of light coming back. And all that energy, all of your own energy back in. Anyone else's energy that has clung on to you, or anything that's kind of lingering, just kind of getting pushed out. So everything's just getting a little more equal here. A little more you. And you're welcome to stay here and continue resting and restoring until you do feel just a little more you, a little more ready to face the world or any of the upcoming events you may have. Just take a clearing breath and just uplifting everyone in this class, anyone watching, just uplifting everyone, sending strength to everyone here. So let's inhale through the nose, sigh through your mouth. Go ahead and start to wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe let your head kind of rock from side to side. Just bringing in a little more movement through ankles and wrists. Maybe opening and closing your jaw, swallowing, yawning, maybe stretching long. And choose a side and roll over into the fetal position. Pause there for a full round of breath in and out. And using the help and strength of your hands and arms, press your way on up to a comfortable seat. We'll join the hands in front of the heart center, closing your eyes. We're just kind of looking down toward the floor. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and be free. May our own thoughts, words, and actions somehow contribute to that freedom, happiness for all. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Together, let's bring our thumbs up to third eye center. And in a little bow forward in gratitude. Let's do that together now. Bowing forward. Peace. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being in this class today. I hope you're feeling nice and chill, a little more rested. Hopefully you're feeling like you have gotten some deep rest today. And yeah, hope to see you again soon.